Alright, this is a test. Now to see what's working. Alright, YouTube's working, Periscope's working. I don't know if LinkedIn is working yet. Huh. Settings. I'm gonna spend a few minutes just trying to make sure everything's working on my end. Let's see. How do I know if a live stream is working on LinkedIn? Okay, let me load YouTube up. Oh. I don't think I can. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay, I am live on YouTube. Awesome. All right. What else am I live on? Periscope. Okay, cool. Things are working. All right, so I don't think LinkedIn is working for me. So I think we're live on a couple different places, but I'm gonna spend the next few minutes just figuring a few things out. So what I want to invite you to do is, if you guys have any questions that are blocking. Oh, nice. Periscope is working, not the greatest quality on desktop. Should be fine on mobile. Is it just blurry? Is it not a high resolution? But yeah, anyone, so the point of this is, like I said, I'm going to spend about 5 minutes just trying to make sure everything's kind of working correctly. Because this is, I don't usually stream on Twitter and YouTube. So give me about 5 minutes. But in the meantime, if you did have any blockers, if you did have any questions, let me know. Just post a comment in the chat wherever you are, and I'll go ahead and answer some of those questions. But for now, I'm going to finish setting that up. Okay, LinkedIn. Okay, so LinkedIn is not working. Okay. That's okay. I'm not worried about LinkedIn. That actually is a shame. Okay. Let me reconnect LinkedIn. Let's see if that's working. Sending data. Yeah, it's stuck at sending data. Ah, so it's not working. I wonder if LinkedIn just takes a... Let's delete the channel and re-add it. And then LinkedIn one more time. Connect. Let's try it again. Okay, you're on YouTube. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here, I can actually just go. Yeah, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sign off real quick. I'm gonna sign on. I'll go on camera, and oh, okay. So different platforms tell me different things about them. But I'm gonna re-sign on, and hopefully the LinkedIn is working because I did make a post that it would be live. So I will be right back. Hey, I'm back. It's a little chilly in here. Okay, I don't think LinkedIn is going to work. I have no idea why. Maybe I have to set something up on LinkedIn before I start streaming. I have no idea. That's all right. That's not a big deal. Let me see if it makes a tweet. Oh, it does. Oh, very cool. Okay, cool. I think everything else works. LinkedIn is the only broken one. I'll figure that out later. But okay, so a couple things that I wanted to mention. So this is kind of just I'm going to be doing these. Actually, I'd like to try these once a week, where I'm just going to sign on. Oh, I probably should. There we go. I probably should. Well, anyways, I'm just going to try them once a week. And even if we don't get any viewers, anything like that, I'm probably going to go online for about a half an hour. And kind of what we did with the meetups, where I'm really just there if you have any blockers or questions. So as you're growing as a developer, especially, us being home so much, you have a lot of time to really learn and grow, and so you're probably going to encounter a lot of blockers, a lot of questions. I kind of just want to pop up on these live streams to give you just, I guess, a chance to really ask whatever's on your mind. So you don't have to have anything on your mind, but it'll be here if you need it. All right, so first things first, if anyone has any questions, any web development related questions, getting a position, I actually wanted to start off with a kind of a quick topic with the coronavirus kind of going around. But if you guys think of any questions in the meantime, just let me know. So the main thing is, so I think we get a lot of concern, a lot of anxiety, worry about, what the coronavirus is doing, as far as how dangerous it can be and how it can impact our families, but also career-wise, and that is something to keep in mind. So as a developer, you don't really have the opportunity to go out and network. You can't really go to meetups. You can't go to networking meetups. And I think we all know in person, it's much easier to make a better impression and a stronger impression and build that trust. And so what I want to tell you is you still can do that. You're just doing it in a slightly different way. So a couple things to that. One, you're still building up your portfolio. You're still coding. You're going to get to a point where you need to kind of get away from tutorials and really just start working on projects. But a lot of people kind of have questions about, like, what project ideas should I work on? Think about what's going on right now. There's a really cool hackathon. I don't know if it's started yet. I'm pretty sure sign-up started. But there's a Facebook hackathon, I think, with the goal of... I thought the theme was around kind of like building an app that's going to help society and kind of like recover from the impact of this virus. Think about the problems that are going on right now that you think you can solve through technology. And you're at home. You're not really able to go out as much. Everything's closed. So invest the time. Put the time into creating these projects that will actually help others. Especially if you're stuck on project ideas, you really don't have any. Like, this is the time to focus on projects that are really going to help those closest to you, to help those around you. Just think about the problems that they're experiencing, even if it's just getting the correct news and getting the data from a little bit more of a trustable, reliable source with what's going on. Even if it's just aggregating that data and delivering it to the user, that can be helpful. So there are plenty of project ideas out there right now, but just keep working on it. And so we can't really... I think that's going to be a big chunk of your time, and as well as, you're still applying to positions. Companies are still hiring, and at the very least, even some of the companies that were hiring that are a little bit on hold, get in that pipeline. We don't know what's going to happen in June. We don't know what's going to happen after that. So put your application and still get in that pipeline. You'd be surprised at how many companies even transition into just basically hiring for remote roles to start out with with the agreement that once things kind of clear up and settle down, you're going to move to an in-person position. Companies are still hiring. You still should be applying 15 jobs per week with a cover letter. Do a little company research with each job. I know it's time consuming, but pair that with a lot of project work and a little bit of learning, and you're going to be in really, really good shape. The job process hasn't stopped as a developer. You are still going to continue pushing forward. So keep applying is what I'm saying. And the last thing is, we don't have networking now, right? We can't just go have a coffee chat. I don't know how many times I would meet for, like, people would message me, especially when they wanted to work at my last company or the previous company. We would just have a coffee chat. They'd ask about the company. But some people were kind of looking for a personal recommendation letter. Some people weren't. They were just trying to get a feel for what being a developer was like, and that's completely fine. Those are the conversations I enjoyed more, honestly. But even the people that I would meet with a coffee chat, some people just didn't really have anything amazing going on. They really didn't put a lot of effort into helping others or providing value for others, and it was all about me, when they would talk to me. And so this is a really good, so even though they got to meet me in person, it still was a bad experience. And it probably didn't meet a lot of their goals of trying to, find a way into a company or get a personal recommendation. So what I'm trying to say is, just because you meet in person doesn't mean that's going to be a positive networking experience for you. What can be positive is really, taking advantage of the times we are in and building something positive and having that conversation around helping society, helping others. It's showing online that you're still passionate about developing. You still are really excited to build things that people are going to use and that you're going to be able to build a better version of, and just continue that reiteration and just keep pushing forward with growing as a developer and the quality of things that you can build. So you're still doing all of that online, and how do you showcase that, right? So I mentioned, just because you're networking in person doesn't mean that's going to be a constructive, positive experience for you. There are way more effective ways at networking and getting your name out there and getting exposure and getting the attention of employers and recruiters. And that's, if you have something that you're really interested in, something you're really passionate about that's tech related, write a blog post about it, write a LinkedIn post about it, record a video and just post it on LinkedIn. You don't have to start a YouTube channel or anything like that. Just post your video on LinkedIn. You'll see very often people come out of boot camps and they'll just do a little video presentation of their project, because there's a lot of useful context being delivered with that. So what I mean by that, with the context, they talk about the problem that they initially faced, right? So this presentation is kind of a window into who you are as a developer when an employer doesn't know you. So even if you were to kind of just talk about the project that you just built, talking about the problem that you actually had to solve, talking about the value that it provided to people. Again, if you can gain a little bit of a user base behind that project, then that's amazing. Push that out. Even if it was a project that was built for someone else's app and you kind of just got a list of requirements, just even talking about that experience and the process of taking an idea, talking with someone with that idea and turning it into a practical solution. It's something tangible, something people can see, something people can use. If you talk about that process, whether it's in a video, a blog post, whatever your medium is, even if it's just audio, like a podcast, it's going to it's going to give exposure to an employer to get to know you. And what that does is, juniors are always risky to hire. So it's going to reduce the amount of risk that you're going to bring to a company as a junior developer. So that's online, right? And that, to me, that's going to be way more powerful than just going to these coffee chats in person and trying to get a word in, a conversation in with the developer at a company. Now, keep in mind, like, the reason why I'm kind of starting with this is you still probably want to link or reach out on LinkedIn, right? You still want to send those messages. And you want to, again, when you send those messages, it's not all about me. It's providing value. What can you provide value with? So doing, maybe the person on LinkedIn has a blog post and you read it and you actually really enjoy it. You can send them a message saying, I really appreciate your blog post. I'd love to talk with you a little bit more and learn kind of like what it's like to be a developer. Would you have 15 minutes in return? I'd be happy to promote your blog post, or I could even just post it on LinkedIn for you. So again, thinking about how you're going to provide value for that person so that conversation can still happen, but now you have the advantage of, if you're building an online presence, it's not in person. They can look you up now, right? And sometimes they will beforehand if you're meeting in person, but now, like, if you're attaching things on your LinkedIn profile, like your presentation, so like a tech talk, even if it's just a tech talk you're given by yourself to the internet, right? Even if it's just a discussion about your project, what you learned, and the value that it's providing, that you can attach all that to LinkedIn. And then when you do send that message, now you have an online presence for that developer to look back and kind of do a little research on you. And I think a lot of developers really appreciate when they see aspiring developers excited to kind of express themselves and help other aspiring developers with what they've learned. And so keep in mind, just because you're an aspiring developer doesn't mean you don't have ideas to contribute. It doesn't mean you don't have great thoughts and ideas, and that you can't influence even a more experienced developer to take that feedback and grow themselves. So what I'm saying is, like, really focus on your online presence right now. So choose your medium, how you're going to get your voice out there, express yourself, but more importantly, like, just grind on your portfolio. We're going to be inside for quite a while, so grind on your portfolio and just keep pushing forward. It's kind of a rant for me, but it's because I've seen a few developers that have, like, they're coming up with excuses like, oh, I'm not, I got to slow down. I'm just going to stop. I can't even get a job anyways, coronavirus. So, and that's bullshit. That's complete bullshit. You can still build up your online presence. You can still push through this very, very strong. So I want to squash that excuse. And I would love to see people continuing to push forward no matter what through this, because you can. What do you think helps junior developers establish a learning roadmap? That's a really good question. I think a lot of people make the mistake of developing a roadmap too early. I think you have to understand that something about coding attracted you to it in the first place, right? And you really have to think about that, because that's going to shape your roadmap. So the one thing I would caution is, don't build your roadmap based on what is marketable and what you think companies want. Build your roadmap about, the focus should be on, okay, why was I attracted to coding in the first place? I probably wanted to build something, right? I probably wanted to solve a problem. What kind of problems did you want to solve? Did you, maybe you are a financial advisor and you have, maybe you want to get a little bit more tangible and actionable results out of this giant spreadsheet of data and numbers that you have. And so you want to analyze that data and display it to your boss, shareholders, or you even just want to see it for yourself. You want to display it in a way that's very appealing and attractive and very easy to read, and it's very effective in that way. And so you might want to go. You might want to learn about data visualization, even just like on the web, on the front end, or maybe even on mobile. You have to think about the things that excited you about coding in the first place, and kind of come up with a project, a solution that's that's going to solve that problem. Now you don't have to know how to build it, but now that you have that idea, that thing that you really want to build, a project like that is really strong because projects like that end up getting finished because you want to build it, you want to finish it. Now it's like, well, how do I build that? How do I do data visualization? Now let that develop your roadmap. Let what you want to build create that roadmap. And then it starts with Google. Then it's like, what languages do I need to learn for data visualization? And you're probably going to get a lot. And you might get, like I said, you might get data visualization tutorials for mobile, or even native applications on Mac or Windows, or you might want to put it on the web. And you have to think about, like, well, who do I want to reach? So when you start kind of weeding that down, like, Google's going to be your best friend. You're eventually going to find the languages that you're going to need. So for web, you're probably going to notice HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And for data visualization, especially if your focus is going to be on the front end and like showing it, displaying it to others, there are a lot of good libraries with JavaScript specifically. So maybe that's the language you're going to focus a little bit more on. But you see what I did? I started with the problem that I wanted to solve, what got me excited about coding. As a financial advisor. I'm not a financial advisor, I'm just using that as an example. And I Googled my way into figuring out that learning path, that roadmap. And when you start learning, when you start developing that roadmap, I think you're going to get stronger. You're going to get better at creating your own learning path. You're gonna get a feel for learning development in general. You're going to make mistakes, and you're going to realize sometimes, like, you went on a path where you're not able to retain a lot. Maybe you're spending too much time reading tutorials, because that's kind of a common mistake people make, is they're in tutorial land, and a good tutorial will make you feel like you remember everything, that you know everything. That's just what a good tutorial and a teacher does. It doesn't mean you are going to remember that. Immediately after, you need to apply that. So if you have this project of data visualization that you want to build, then if you have that project that you want to build, then, sorry, I'm just reading your question real quick. Oh, okay, I thought you said something else. Anyways, if you have that project of data visualization that you want to build, let that influence your learning and start building like pieces of that data visualization. Maybe it's just figuring out how to aggregate that data and just build a simple function in JavaScript to take all that data, kind of figure out how to import that, take all that data, put it into some sort of data structure, decide, do I want to store it so people can retrieve it later? Then you might need a database. If it's just going to make an API call, and just grab some random third-party API, then you don't need to store it. So, but start building out pieces of this application, and when you start hitting blockers and roadblocks, okay, what's the next thing that I can learn? Like, this is honestly the healthiest way to learn something new in development. And then eventually, once you kind of have your stack, and this is the last piece of this, and I'll answer the rest of the questions. Once you kind of know kind of what languages you need to learn, or what language you need to learn, and what stack, maybe a couple libraries that you have to pick up, or a framework, then you can really dive into the fundamentals of that. Then you can go through, there are really good tutorials on Team Treehouse that are really good for beginners. But I wouldn't recommend paying past the $25 a month. I think that's a huge waste of money past that. But there are a lot of free resources as well. But then you can start diving into the fundamentals, and then you can have a complete, beginner to expert series of tutorials. But I think you need to start with just trying to build something and make it work. It's going to be really funky. It's gonna break. It's going to be really messy, and when you go back in, you're going to cringe just looking at your code, because you're going to grow as a developer. But you need to start with just building and getting excited about building something, because you just go through a tutorial. Most people that do that have no projects in mind, they forgot what they were even excited about with coding in the first place. They quit, right? It's not for them. So I think we need to pay a lot of attention in keeping that excitement alive in us. Networking and hackathons increase your odds when applying for a first position. Thoughts? Yeah. So we talked about networking. I think networking is very important. Again, there's a lot of online networking. Pay attention to kind of what's going on. Facebook has just released a hackathon, and I think it's for a lot of social good. I think that's their theme, their focus, revolving around the COVID-19 situation right now. So everything's gone online, but hackathons are still very, very important. They're still going to be paid attention to by recruiters. The projects that you build are still going to be paid attention to by recruiters, by companies. Again, companies and recruiters are still hiring. They're still looking. This virus hasn't stopped the job market like that. It's slowed it down, but it hasn't stopped, and developers are still being hired every single day. I guarantee you that. Yeah, we talked about networking, but I think hackathons are another amazing way of oh, my chat just glitched. I think they're another amazing way of getting exposed. I would say, like, in person, hackathons were like one of my number one recommendations. You just meet tons of cool people, get different perspectives from people on your team about building a complex application. And when you build a larger application where you have to contribute code alongside someone else's, you have to figure out how to navigate those waters. And that's a skill that you should build. That's why I always encourage, like, find ways to group up with people and build larger applications than you would if it was just you, because I think it creates an interesting dynamic, something you're going to face when you get a job. You're going to struggle with, and you are going to struggle. It's going to be a great experience, but you're also going to struggle with figuring out how not to step on people's toes and picking up other people's conventions, and really, like, trying to find deep places in the code base of your company of where this solution was already, or this problem was already solved, and you're going to take that component and reuse it and integrate it into what you're building. You'll start to learn how to do that if you participate in a hackathon and you work alongside with others. But it's also good with just meeting people. You never know, the people that you work with, that you're all trying to get a job. One person gets a job, they really loved your personality, they really jive with you, they're going to recommend you. And those personal recommendations at a company go a long, long way in bringing your resume from the bottom of that stack, with 500 resumes, to the top of that stack. So keep that in mind. Hey, Vyacheslav. I probably butchered that, but welcome. What can you say about definitions of ready and definitions of done? What definitions can you mark? I have no idea what that question means. About definitions of ready and definition... Oh. What definitions can you mark? Do you mean, like... Are you trying to ask a question around, like, when is a feature done? When is a project done? And, like, when should it be pushed out? Because if you aren't, I am very lost on that question. Different now that COVID-19 is a thing, but maybe there's online. Yeah, and there are online hackathons. And again, for anyone that's just tuning in now, Facebook, I believe, is hosting a hackathon question. It's a Scrum question. It's Kanban. I don't know that question. I've never heard it. Can you rephrase it? Are you just talking about, like, the swim lanes? Like, you just have a category of ready and a category of done? I think what confuses me is what definitions you mark. Yeah, when I think ready and done, I think of swim lanes, of where done would, like, ready is. I hope I'm talking about the right thing for you guys, if I understand correctly. But ready is. It's ready to be worked on. The requirements are hashed out, and usually, like, the design requirements are okay. Cool. The design requirements are hashed out. So I think typically, like, I would only put a ticket under ready when it's made it through product, and then design and I, or UX and I, have had a conversation about what it's going to actually look like implementation wise, and then it's ready. Some companies will have it when the product has established all the requirements, and then you take it up design and UX. So I think that can go either way. But done to me is I don't know, every company has done this differently that I worked at. For me, when I see done, I see so done can mean released unless you have a released column. Sometimes done means that's the end of that board, and QA picks it up from there and has their own pipeline for it into releasing the application, QA or a backend engineer. But done to me is it's been tested. Like I've always had done be like QA has passed it. They've approved of it. It's been tested. So done can either mean it's released or it still needs to be released, but it is in working condition. It's not going to break the app. All the tests are passing. To me, that's done. The DoD is usually a short document in the form of a checklist that defines when a product backlog is considered done. I think that's what the question is geared towards. I might have missed it. Hopefully what I said was helpful. Okay, so I don't want to skip anyone. I have a portfolio, a resume, and just finished a front-end tech degree. Okay, it's been hard finding a job. What's your advice? How many projects do you have on your portfolio? I think you, again, like just use this as a guideline. Are you applying to 15 positions every single week, right? Still no. Even with COVID-19, are you applying to at least 15 positions every single week? Does each application have a cover letter? The cover letter should be 1 to 2 paragraphs. It should be focused on blending your skills with where they're going to provide value in the company. So that means in order to know how you're going to provide value, you have to do some company research. So spending less than 30 minutes just digging into the company a little bit, just get a feel for their values, their objectives, like what they're really passionate about. You can even look into their tech team and see what they're passionate about. Like every tech team has their own conventions and their own set of things that, like, some tech teams will produce open source, and they'll push some of their code out to open source and try to help others. So they're going to really appreciate open source. So if you have experience with it, then you can really highlight that in the cover letter. But it's really doing a little company research, sending that cover letter, and making sure it kind of intertwines really well. But that's going to be it's going to be time consuming to do that, but it's important. Don't forget about that cover letter, and it shouldn't just be a template cover letter. That's ineffective. It's tiny. If you just send a template cover letter with every single resume, it's probably a tiny bit more effective than not sending a cover letter at all, but it's not worth your time. Or at least it almost isn't worth your time. So it needs to be personalized with the company. But hopefully if you have a minimum of 3 projects in the portfolio, they're complex projects, they solved a real problem, hopefully you gained a user base behind it, or it provides value to other people, those are very strong projects. So some people will submit a cover letter with like JavaScript calculator, and that's the level of the application that they're building. It's time to take it a step up. It's time to do something with that data, store it, even... It's really, I don't know, I'm just thinking, like, this is going to be really stupid, but like with a JavaScript calculator, maybe you're recording all the calculations that have been done, and you're showing data visualization of like what numbers people are interested in or what calculations people are interested in, so they can learn about people's habits or problems that they're trying to solve. I don't know. I was just trying to make something work with a JavaScript calculator, but it needs to be more than just this abstract concept that no one is going to use, right? You need to figure out a way to integrate it into society and try to provide value to others. And then when you do, you can provide like a little bit of a case study. Like, so you have on your portfolio, you have your projects, you have your live link, you have your GitHub link, so source control, and then you have a case study, or you can call it whatever you want, but it's context around the project. I had this problem to solve, I solved it, and I really wanted to test my skills, so I took it a step forward and ended up making a backend for this. Not knowledgeable about backend whatsoever, but hey, I'm storing the data now, and this is how this is going to provide value to other people. Now people can create accounts, and they can I don't know, maybe you have a writing app, and they can just write notes that are going to help them be more productive in their company, in their work life. It's just start thinking about how your projects can provide value to other people and start building features on those projects that will do that. That's going to strengthen your projects. But other than that, like I talked about it earlier in the video, it's just build an online presence. Figure out a medium. I know everyone shies away from this. Well, not everyone. I think a lot of people are starting to push forward with this, but if you're not, like, if you like writing, if you like talking, if you like video chats, if you like, whatever your medium is, start expressing your ideas. Show your love for development. Put it on your LinkedIn profile. Allow it to be searchable. Every company is going to search for you. They're going to search for your social media. They're going to search for any works you've done. If they Google your name and nothing shows up, that is boring. That is dull. You are not competitive. You are going to be at the bottom of the resume stack. It's like, and that's really the mindset that you need to have is if you don't do a good job of exposing yourself and showing that you're a good cultural fit and showing the things that you love, you're just going to be higher risk, right? And a company is going to want to, they're going to want to hire someone that they can trust. That's much of a less of a risk, that they can trust is going to ramp up in the time they need them to ramp up, that they're passionate about the things that will kind of intertwine with the company, that you're going to bring a unique perspective to the company, even if it's an old industry you worked in, that's going to benefit the company. It's you gotta put yourself out there, and the companies that are really going to be a good fit for you, they're going to be attracted to that. They're going to see that. So there are a lot of things you can do, and we would have to go into very specifics, Brad, about like your day-to-day, hour-to-hour, what are you doing all throughout the week? But those are kind of just some general tips. Might be an obvious question, but where do you typically look for job postings online? Which do you filter for as a junior dev? No, I think that's a really good question, Matt. I spent a lot of time on Indeed. What are some job boards that you guys recommend? It's been a while since I've been on job boards. I usually will see a lot of... I haven't had tons of luck on applying on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn makes it really easy. I don't like applications where it's an instant apply. I think that's what you want to avoid, is if it's an instant apply, 500 other people just did that as well. So you're not really... that's a very saturated job posting. So job applications that require you to go through a process, I think you stand a much better chance of, first of all, being able to show that you do have a unique thing to bring to the company, unique value, but I think it'll also give you, what was it? There was a second thing I was going to say. Oh, they also do a good job of pulling all the right information out of you that the company needs. I think it's very easy to just do a one click, it sends your resume, you're done. But the companies that I usually got replies for were companies where they really asked me a lot of information I didn't expect to answer. And I remember going through the process of thinking, God, I'm not gonna get I'm not gonna hear back. I've gotten 100 rejections so far. I don't know why I'm still pushing through and dredging through these long applications when I'm not going to get a call back. That was my mindset, and that's a complete wrong mindset to have. I guarantee you, the more conversation, the more information you give to a company about you. I'm not talking about personal information, they don't need to know your social security when you put in an application, but I'm talking about the more you can expose you, who you are, and your experience and what you're going to bring through a long application process, I found that you have a higher chance of getting the call back. And sometimes you just do that with a really good cover letter if you're just submitting your resume and cover letter. So that's something to keep in mind. Yeah, I don't know. Do you guys have any ideas for job boards? What have you guys used? But I do think Indeed's a good place. You really could just Google job boards. Oh, I accidentally played a video. That's my bad. What to look out for as a junior developer? What I want to tell you is stop shying away from positions that have like 3 to 5 years of experience. I think someone in our Discord community mentioned apply for positions that are junior and mid-level as a junior, and I think that's really healthy. I didn't even get any calls back. Well, I did. I got a couple calls back for junior positions, but I got my first job with a position that was labeled a little bit more as a mid-level position. And like I think my first title was UI engineer, and I was, they kind of understood that was my first job, but very quickly they showed me the respect of me just being able to kind of do my own thing, and they trusted me to push out features. They didn't really treat me as a junior engineer. So my recommendation really is like apply to both of those positions. Don't worry about the years of experience. You're going to have 15 skills on there that they expect you to know. If they list JavaScript and you know JavaScript, but they list 4 other languages, I think what is intimidating is when you see like 4 to 5 different languages. What you should see that as is they're open for you to know any of those languages, and as long as you know them well and you have good fundamental understanding of programming concepts, you can learn. You can learn on the job. You can pick up a different syntax. Syntax doesn't take a long time to learn when you know good, solid programming fundamentals. So don't shy away from the languages, but if it's a Java position and you focused on JavaScript, you're probably not going to get a call, but you can still apply. I think where people end up getting positions applying for a language that they don't know is they've made a good impression. They have a good online presence, or they met the person in person, and that like you and the CEO just really kicked it off at a hackathon or a meetup or something like that, and it was just a good cultural fit. I think you're going to stand less of a chance of getting those types of positions if your languages don't match up, your stack doesn't match up, if you don't really have that online presence, you don't have that exposure. But really, like, you should be applying for anything that isn't a junior position, as long as it's not a senior position. Like, you're probably not going to get a position at Netflix where the experience is expected. I think it's like 5 to 7. I think it starts at 5 or 7 years of experience. I think it's like 7 years of experience. They're pretty much like, the last time I saw, they're only looking for senior engineers. But you need to apply to more jobs than you probably think you need to. And what I'd watch out for. What did I watch out for job applications? There was certain language that I watched out for, and it was more of, I hated the term rockstar developer. I guess there was this company that would advertise, we want a rockstar developer, and it literally, I don't know, it had me on edge. They wanted someone who could do everything, that could pick up everything, but they didn't really list specifics. They didn't list a stack they work with. They didn't give that information. And I think when I start seeing a lack of technical requirements on a job resume, I'm kind of curious what that job even is. Because remember, like, you can be hired as a developer and still be like a developer advocate, or like you could really, like, you're just meeting with clients and gathering technical requirements, and you're not really coding, right? You might build a tiny prototype to show something, but like, there are different types of developer positions that aren't really developers, that you're not really going to grow as a software engineer if you really want to focus on the tech. So I think job applications that don't really have any technical requirements, that's a bit of a yellow flag for me. But really, it's the conversation that you have with HR or whoever you're going to talk to initially. Quite frankly, if that conversation doesn't go well, or you get, like, if you want a good work-life balance and they don't offer that, I think what a lot of people do is still like, well, I really need a job, I'm going to apply anyways, I'm going to continue pushing forward with this. And if you are extremely desperate for money, sure, but if you can wait a few months and you can continue applying and finding a good fit, then you should do that. Because if you do, because a lot of people do go into their first position and they just accept something because at least you get experience. at least you get into the industry. And some people hear that's all you need, and that's not true. I think once you break into the industry and you get that first position, you get a year of good experience, you are really well off. You are way ahead of entry-level developers. You're going to find that job opportunities really open up for you. But if you get a year of experience, for example, just building WordPress sites and WordPress themes, and you actually wanted to dive way deeper into the back end, and you wanted to dive way deeper into JavaScript, and you don't get to do that because you're stuck building WordPress themes. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to do, but if you want to go, like, you want to deal with a lot more logic and programming, and you want to just go a completely different direction, you're not going to get a job working with React when your experience shows that you were building WordPress themes. You know what I mean? So I think, like, the tech stack should kind of match with what you're going with. The culture should match. If the work-life balance isn't what you're looking for, don't get it. You're going to be unhappy with it. It's going to taint your view of being a developer. And a lot of people burn out and they quit development because sometimes they get into positions where they're expected to work 60 hours a week, and you have a family, or you just have hobbies that make you enjoy life and love life, and you have to put all those aside because now you're working as a developer. And it doesn't have to be like that. So I don't think there's much to look out for as far as the initial job posting, but more so with the conversation you have with potential employers. That's what you have to look out for. Make sure it's a good fit. Make sure you enjoy talking with the person that you talk with. If it's a larger company, sometimes you can get past that, right? Where you're going to just interact with them once. That might not have gone well, but you know, if it's a 10,000 person company, sometimes you can't let that affect you. You're probably never going to see them again, right? Like, it's pretty much like my leasing. Quite frankly, the leasing person at my apartment, she just talked bad about, like, every other resident that she's come across. Like, she just started this conversation about, like, venting about the previous people she had to deal with that day. I'm like, this isn't a good start. But then when I got into the apartment, I like management. They treat people kindly. You know, I like where I live. So I know it's apartment, it's not development, but it's very similar. Like, the idea is very, very similar, especially for big companies. You can get away with that a little bit. Hopefully that answered your question. Cool. These are pretty good questions. You got me ranting. Anytime I'm ranting, I know they're really good questions. So, all right. Do you guys have any other questions for me? And I don't know if I answered the Scrum thing at all. I'm just not fully aware of what you guys are talking about. A short document in the form of a checklist that defines what a product backlog. I mean, oh, I just misread that. I guess I don't know the exact term for that, but what was the question? What can you say about definitions of ready and definitions of done? What definitions can you mark? You'd have to show me an example of that. I've had my own checklist of what is done, but I've never had, like, two distinct questions of ready and done. Or two distinct checklists of ready and done. I've never had that. It was more of just, like, all the initial requirements that it had to meet. And then I've had, yeah, that's all I've had. All right, guys, no more questions? Cool. That's fine with me. I just want to be on, and I wanted to give you guys a chance to ask questions. Like I said, I want to try this. I want to figure out why LinkedIn isn't working. I have no idea, because I really want to post on LinkedIn and go live. That's a shame that it didn't work. But I'm going to try to go live at very least once every 2 weeks and give this a try. And I kind of want to make this a pattern. So I want to keep doing this. Because I do think, like, sometimes you just don't have blockers. Sometimes you don't have questions. So and then, like, the next week you might encounter something. So I'm gonna keep up with this and do that for a while and see if kind of questions pop up. But guys, thanks so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Usually these will last probably about no more than an hour. So yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, hi. If you're watching this on Twitter, Give me a follow if you haven't already, but I will post when I go live next time. So thanks everyone. Have a good rest of your day and happy coding, everyone. See ya.